All right, in our offering message, we've been talking about the 4 types of giving, which are tithing, first fruits, alms, and seed sowing. And so we've been talking about each week, we've been talking about each one of those. First week we talked about tithing, and last week we talked about first fruits. So today we're talking about alms giving, alms, A-L-M-S. And so the definition of what alms giving is our generosity that motivates us to give towards the poor. You know, it's our compassion and our sympathy for them that motivates us to give alms to help people directly. This is the one type of giving that is not given to God, but is giving to men. Does that make sense? So our tithing and our first fruits and our seed sowing is that we are giving those offerings unto God. And that can happen in a lot of different ways. I think I'm determined to do something here is we're going to go through all 4 of these, each week. And then we're going to do a 5th week, which is to kind of bring them all together and to explain some more detail. Because in a 5-minute offering message, I really don't have time to really delve into every detail about every one of them. But I want to kind of put them all together and explain what our motivation is and why we do them and what's the outcome of them and that kind of stuff. So we'll kind of do that all in a fifth week. But today it's about almsgiving. So I'm going to just rattle through a bunch of scriptures here out of Proverbs, which kind of describes why almsgiving is important to God and why He wants us to do it. So Proverbs 14:21, it says, "He who despises his neighbor sins, but he who has mercy on the poor, happy is he." So if we have mercy to the poor, if we are giving to the poor, then we're happy. Let's go to the next one. I don't remember what it was. Proverbs 19:17. It says, "He who has pity on the poor lends to the Lord, and He will pay back what He has given." All right. 21:13 says, "Whoever shuts his eyes to the cry of the poor will also cry himself and not be heard." That's an important. What did I say? Ears? I said eyes? No, he shuts his ears. I'm sorry. Starts with the same letter. Sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes I just make it up as I go along, don't I? It's like, why is it so hard to read the words that are on the page, you know? I don't know. Our brains are a wonderful thing, aren't they? But boy, they can get, yeah. Okay. Whoever shuts up his ears to the cry of the, you don't shut up your eyes to the cry of the poor. You shut up your ears. What? Shuts his ears. Anyhow, let's move on. Where are we going? 22:9. Okay, who has a generous ear, generous eye, will be blessed, for he gives of his bread to the poor. There's another scripture we just heard. I don't know what was in our reading or our Bible reading plan. It was talked about how bread is your strength, and that was something that kind of went along with this. It's when we give of our strength to the poor. It may not just be our food. It may be whatever we are strong in. What area are we strong in? And that's what we give to people. And God has made us strong in that area so that we have something to give to whoever's in need of it. Where are you going? 28:27? Is that our last one? "He who gives to the poor will not lack, but he who hides his eyes will have many curses." So if we give to the poor, we will not lack. And so it's an important aspect of why is giving to the poor important. It's because with that, God has promised a lot of blessings on it and a lot of things that will happen. We'll be happy, we'll be blessed, we won't be cursed, we'll, be strong ourselves. And so here's the other aspect of giving to the poor. The second verse that we looked at there was Proverbs 19:17. Can we go back to that one? That was that Psalms verse that I gave you, Anthony, that wasn't Psalms, it was Proverbs. Once I read it, I'm like, well, there it is. That's the one it should have been. He who has pity on the poor lends to the Lord, and He will pay back what He has given. And so this is an aspect of giving to the poor, that it is a loan to God. And God will never allow anyone to allow Himself to owe anyone. He will repay. So when we give to the poor, we know that there's going to be it'll come back to us what we have given. If we give $1, we'll get $1, kind of thing. God will make sure that we get back what we've loaned to Him. Not lended, what we've loaned to Him. He will get it back to us. So let's go to Matthew 6:3. And here's an aspect of giving. This is not just for this alms giving, it's kind of for all giving, or for doing, just giving of our time, giving of our skills, our talent, our abilities. It says, but when you do a charitable deed, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. And I've heard people take this verse and make a whole doctrine for their life out of it that is contrary to that. Can you put it up in the King James? That's the New King James. Let's go to King James. King. Down there at the bottom it says, but when thou dost... I always have trouble with King James. It trips me up. It says, but when thou dost alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth. Whew. That's like old English. That's why I use the New King James so much, is because I can understand it. But in the New King James it says, do a charitable deed. And that phrase, charitable deed, if you look it up in the Greek, and I did because I wanted to make sure I understood for sure that the King James was translating that word correctly. It is alms. It's giving to the poor. It's giving to those that are in need, that do not have, that are in lack. And so when we do charitable deeds, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. And this is the word of Jesus. If you read this scripture, it's in red. It's Jesus giving this instruction. And what He's saying is, some people have taken this to an extreme, is that they don't want to have any recognition for anything they do. They want to make sure nobody knows nothing. Well, this is the only type of giving that Jesus said this about, was almsgiving. He did not say this about tithing or first fruits or seed sowing. And so we see in Scripture many, many times when offerings are public, when the children of Israel brought their goods to build the temple, and they finally brought so much that they had to say, stop them, we've got too much. We got too much lumber, we got too much gold, we got too much silver, too much fabric, we got too much. They got to stop. Well, it was accounted to who brought what and how much they brought. It's in the Scripture. You can read it and go down through it family by family, who brought what and how much they brought. So not every type of giving is to be in secret or in where you don't let your right hand know what your left hand's doing, or your left hand know what your right hand's doing. It's the only place that this is talked about is in almsgiving. And the reason for this is to protect the honor or the dignity, the dignity of the person you're giving it to. In other words, I'm not, and Jesus goes on and talking about the Pharisees, how they, or talking about people, how they toot their own horn. They get, they have a big traveling band and they make a big deal of it that they're giving to the poor. Well, that destroys, or that diminishes the integrity, the dignity of the person that you're giving to. You are making them front and center, and it makes them an example, and you're making fun of them. You're making a mockery of them because they're in need and you're meeting that need. You're looking, look at me, how good I am. I'm giving to the poor, and yet you're diminishing the person that you're giving to. You are making them feel inadequate, unworthy, and all that kind of stuff. So this is the only time that we are supposed to do this. And I've had people say that they didn't want to. We used to do community projects and repair people's homes, and they didn't want to come out and do that because we would take pictures of people doing those community projects, and we'd take a group picture at the end, and we would make it known, make it public that we are doing things out in the community. We wouldn't say who the person we're doing it for. We wouldn't give any indication of where we were at or anything like that, but we would celebrate the volunteers that were doing that. And yet this person did not want to do that because of this scripture. They didn't feel that they should, but they meant it in anything, in any way. Never, never, never. And yet Jesus, remember him in the synagogue, when offering time came around, he's watching who put what in when, and who put in how much and what they put in. And when the widow with the 2 mites put it in, he said she gave the most, and she was blessed because of that. And she says, even though all these other people put in great amounts, she's the one. And so Jesus was taking note of who was giving what. Now, if Jesus is watching, but he's always watching all of us, what we give. No, this is when he was on the earth as a human being, and he was watching the offering and seeing who was putting in what. And so offering was a public thing. That tithes and offering that we're taking up was a public thing. And so we don't need to be ashamed of when we're giving to God, when we're paying our tithes, or we're giving first fruits offerings, or we're sowing seed. That should be something that we don't cower from, we don't hide from it, but yet, we want to, when other people find out about it, or if it's done in such a way that it's I could get into all kinds of trouble right here. Not trouble, but all kinds of avenues here, talking about great offerings in the Bible. They took up great offerings, and people were named what they gave, and we've been a part of that, part of those kind of offerings in the last few years of great offerings, and they're an awesome time. Anyhow. All right, what else do I want to go? Where else do I want to go, Lord? There's something else here that I'm forgetting, or I'm not doing, or something. So when you give to the poor, I would agree. Don't let your left hand know what your right hand's doing. Do it discreetly. Do it with honor. Do it with you're building this person up. You're not trying to make yourself look good. So in that time of giving alms, take yourself out of the center of that circle that's making you look good, and put other people in there that you're blessing. And what will happen is that other people will be encouraged by you, and they'll want to bless too. And they'll want to give things. If you take yourself out of the center of it, say, look at me, how great I am. And if you take yourself out of that and you make the person that you're blessing or that you're giving to God, and anyhow. I was going to tell the story of Cold Stone. We went to a Cold Stone ice cream shop. You know what I'm talking about? And I don't know if they do this at all Cold Stones, but they do this singing thing. So if you give us a tip, if you put money in their tip jar, then the person behind the counter will start singing. I didn't know this at the time. And we were in Branson when this happened. And it's kind of like a Branson thing. We thought it was, maybe that's just something they do in Branson. But anyhow, this guy went in, broke into song, and he was going after it. And it's funny, the people that were behind me, everybody started putting a tip in. But the people ahead of us weren't. And I just saw the tip jar, and I just put it in. I like to be generous. But it was funny how it inspired everybody else to give as well. And so it's amazing how much what we do, we can inspire people to be negative, or we can inspire people to be positive. And it's all up to us what we want to do. But if we take ourselves out of the center of that circle, then we have that opportunity to inspire people.